The Street Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday. File 28. A talent for affability. Ralph Braymere was not successful at school, despite his parents paying for him to attend Lanecroft, the elite private school that boasts 4 generals, 5 CEOs and 6 members of parliament in its alumni. Set in 30 acres of rolling Wiltshire countryside, the young Ralph spent more time trying to find ways to game the system than improve his exam marks or position himself for consideration in the school's first 11 cricket team. His parents had once had great aspirations for him as a banker in the City of London, or as an entrepreneur running a skiing company in Lausanne. But he managed to avoid all of their suggestions and caught the train to London on the last day of his final term at Lanecroft. He met a girl about his age from a very different background. Estelle Martin had grown up in Deptford, the daughter of Marjorie Martin. Ralph had been attracted to Estelle because she was so utterly the opposite of everything that he had known in his hermetically sealed world-view, that he had gained on the playing fields and behind the bike sheds of Lanecroft. Estelle had a job as a barmaid in the Dog and Gate on the Old Kent Road, and that funded a 2-bedroomed flat on a side road 10 minutes away. She worked hard, but Ralph rejected that idea. He wanted something more lucrative than just plain old work, and he gradually started to realize what he wanted to be. And that was a high-class professional burglar. He would travel up to the middle of London and watch the moneyed men and women go about their lives, and the plans in his head slowly developed. His parents had largely left him alone since school, but he did write to them and ask for his clothes to be sent to the flat, and a large brown paper parcel arrived one damp Tuesday morning, 10 minutes after Estelle had left for her lunchtime shift at the Dog and Gate. Ralph put everything on, one after the other, to see himself in those clothes in his new life. In the end, he wore the dark grey suit that his father had given him to attend a friend's wedding a year before, and Ralph set off to track down his first victim. Her name was Florence Main, the second daughter of Lawrence and Deborah Main, who had inherited the money that allowed them to buy a house on Farm Street in Mayfair. Florence was 1 year older than Ralph, and he happened to meet her in a bookshop one day. Then he happened to meet her in a restaurant a week later. When they happened to meet in the street after that, they joked about it being a small world. He invited her to join him at a cafe that was fortunately only a minute away, and they talked and laughed in the spring sunshine. 2 weeks later, she invited him to lunch at her parents' house, as there would be 3 affable young women there who had also been invited, but no affable young men who, in Florence's own words, were so hard to find. He was charming that day, and everyone liked his company. It was during that lunch that he first noticed that he had a talent, which he'd never noticed before, and that was affability. Not something that his school nor his parents had spent any time encouraging. In the bathroom of the house, that was down a corridor and looked out to a side alleyway, he took a cigarette paper from his pocket, folded it 3 times and slid it between the window frame and the window catch. 12 hours later, at exactly 1 a.m., Ralph was back at the house on Farm Street, wearing black clothes and his plimsolls from school. His fingers had prized open the window, and he had jumped up onto the sill, then down onto the bathroom floor. He had moved swiftly up the staircase, and already knew which bedroom was Florence's, because she had talked about the view from it over lunch. He pushed the door open in complete silence, pulled the drawers open of her dressing table, and picked out a handful of necklaces, bracelets, and rings that were laid out in their own bespoke display cases across the drawers. As he had dropped back down to the alleyway in the moonlight, he breathed out and couldn't help a smile on his face. Over the next 5 years, Ralph Braymere repeated the exercise with different young, rich women every few weeks. He quickly realized that he would need to alter his appearance over time to prevent any of his victims happening to see him in a bar or restaurant in the streets where they lived. He told Estelle that he'd got a job as a receptionist at a high-class hairdresser's in Covent Garden, and that explained why he had to keep changing his hair colour, because he volunteered to be the practice model for the junior stylists to improve their dyeing techniques. All was going well until one morning, Ralph Braymere was found dead in the hallway of a private house at 46 Hill Street in Mayfair, only a 1-minute walk from the house where Florence Mayne lived, and where he'd started his robbery career 5 years before. The black cab stops on Hill Street, and Olivia Street climbs out, wearing a dark blue Ralph Lauren suit. One of the things that she enjoys about her work is its variety. As well as some short-term corporate contracts, she has a number of private clients, who she has met either through other work or by personal recommendation. One such client is Stuart Tintagel, the operations director for the construction company Bartholomew Haggerty. His wife Valerie doesn't work, but she does own a collection of jewellery, which she keeps in a safe in their home at 46 Hill Street in Mayfair. When Olivia rings the bell of number 46, the door opens within a few seconds. "Thank you for coming, short notice, Olivia," says Stuart. He is tall with greying dark hair and sad blue eyes. The house is a narrow Georgian one-off property with bright white window frames and cream brickwork. The hallway beyond the front door has black and white square tiles that run up to double sitting room doors 30 feet away. But today the space is full of a white tent. Stuart leads Olivia into the sitting room. "Sorry I couldn't give you any details on the phone," he says. "That tent is a Metropolitan Police forensic tent," she says. "What happened?" "I run in the morning," he says, and pats his stomach. "I always get up at 6, then come down and go out for about 20 minutes. When I was halfway down the stairs today, I could see something on the floor, black and large. I thought it was one of the dogs. We've got 2 Newfoundlands, and they're black. But they're not allowed in the main house, just the kitchens and garden." "But it wasn't one of the dogs," she says. "A man in his 20s. "Alive?" says Olivia. "No." "You called the police?"
"Of course, straight away."
"Do you need me to deal with them for you?"
"Please,"
he says.
"They said they'd interview me later, and Valerie."
"You don't know the man, I suppose?"
"No, never seen him."
"Okay," she says. "Are the police here?"
"Yes, as an inspector. Mirren, his name is."
"I know him," she says. "Where is he?"
"Upstairs somewhere,"
says Stuart.
"Looking at the safe where Valerie keeps her jewellery, which was the target when this burglar broke in."
"Were there jewels on him when they found him?"
"I didn't inspect the body."
"How do you know he was dead?" Stuart frowns now and hesitates.
"I didn't. The police told me."
"Take me through what you did after you found him."
"Is this necessary?"
he says. "It is. Shall we sit?" They drop onto the sofa. "Take your mind back. You're dressed in your running gear. You start coming down the stairs. You see what you think is one of the dogs, so you descend further and realize it's a prone man. What then?"
I leant over him to see his face.
Which looked like what?
Still, emotionless. He looked unconscious,
says Stuart. You checked for breathing or for a pulse?
No.
What then? She says.
I came in here to the sitting room, as there's a telephone, and called 999.
You don't take your mobile out with you on the run?
No, it's my only chance to escape for that 20 minutes.
Escape from what?
The constant flow of life. I'm always doing something.
Which you feel you need to escape from? Says Olivia. He struggles for the right words.
It's just a phrase. Everyone says that sort of thing, don't they?
What happened then?
The constable arrived first. I know her. She's often on the beat around here. P.C. Solway. She did inspect the body and confirm the chap was dead.
Technically, a doctor has to do that. But she would have done what they call declared life extinct.
She called it in on her radio,
says Stuart.
And we waited for a few minutes before they came back to her and told her an inspector and forensics were on their way.
Last question for now, says Olivia. Did you check to see if anything had been taken?
We haven't, he says. I'll go and ask Valerie now. She's resting in the conservatory.
Then I'll go and see the police, says Olivia. Stuart disappears towards the rear of the house to find his wife, and Olivia walks up the stairs. She can hear voices coming from the room off the main landing, and she walks inside. Inspector, how are you? She says. Miss Street, it's a small world. Mr. Tintagel is a private client of mine. I'll be representing him.
This is P.C. Solway,
he indicates the policewoman.
The best darts player in the Metropolitan Police team.
The women smile at each other. Any evidence yet? Says Olivia.
Penetrating trauma, says Mirren.
Something hard and sharp just behind the temple.
It's thin there, apparently, and a big artery right up there too.
The middle meningeal artery, says Olivia. Sounds like someone knew what they were doing. It's a weak spot. We all have it. Anything taken, do we know? Mirren looks at the policewoman. There was a necklace in his pocket. A Van Cleef and Arpels Alhambra with onyx. Did Mrs. Tintagel tell you that? No, I'm a fan of jewellery, says Solway. Although a copper's salary doesn't run to much yet. Just wait until I'm chief constable. What's that necklace worth? A few thousand, says Solway. There was something else too. This. She holds up a forensic sample bag with a piece of paper in it that has a string of letters and numbers on. What is it? Says Olivia. It's a safe combination. An inside job. She looks at the two police officers.
Well, someone gave him the combination, says Mirren.
I'll go off and see if they got any more, says Solway, and she walks out. Mirren turns to Olivia.
I'm going to talk to the Tintagels later. Doesn't look good, does it? A body found in our house. No one else in the place apart from them. The safe combination leaked. They hear a bloke. Whack him over the head.
Are there any live-in staff? Says Olivia.
No, he says. There's a daily woman / housekeeper, Tara Lamb, but she doesn't live in.
And do we have an identity for the deceased yet? Mirren is holding his notebook, and he reads from it.
Ralph Braymere, an address in Bermondsey off the Old Kent Road. I've got to go out there and break the news to whoever he lives with. Not my favourite pastime.
Why don't I come with you, Inspector? Moral support for dealing with a tearful woman. She smiles, and he looks uncomfortable.
Yeah, all right,
he says.
I'm trained in all that, you know.
Do you want me to come with you? She opens her eyes wider.
Yeah, thanks. Come on then.
As they walk out of the house and towards Mirren's car, Olivia can feel her phone buzz in her jacket pocket. Mum, what are you doing? Says Poppy, her daughter. I wanted to go and look for some jeans. Can you come with me? It'll have to be later. But do you want to come on a case? Inspector Mirren and I are tracking down a dead man's family in Bermondsey.
Yeah, cool. I can walk over. It's only half an hour from Towerbridge.
Mirren navigates through the streets of London until they arrive at Tatum Street, a curving link road with 4 identical red brick blocks of flats along its length. Poppy is already here when they pull up.
"It's that block there,"
says Mirren, pointing at one of the buildings. The flats have external balconies to reach the front doors, and the inspector walks along to number 16, then raps on the door. There's no reply, and he repeats the process.
"She's not in,"
calls a man, who's walking across from the road to the bottom of the staircase.
"Does Ralph Braymere live here?"
Mirren calls down from the balcony.
"A bloke, on and off."
"Is that his girlfriend's flat?"
says Poppy, and the man turns to her.
"She's not in trouble, mate."
He stops while he thinks about releasing any information.
"She's on shift now at the Dog and Gate. It's only over there."
He nods his head sideways.
"What's her name?"
"Estelle,"
he says. Then he turns away. They walk to the pub, which is a vast Victorian alehouse, with a single bar stretching 40 feet across the whole space. At this time in the morning, there are only 6 people inside. 4 old men playing dominoes, and 2 old ladies with 2 schooners of sherry on the table between them, and talking in hushed tones. The barmaid has black hair tied back, with blue strands in it, and striking dark brown eyes.
"What can I get you?"
she says, as they walk towards the bar. "Are you Estelle?" says Olivia. The woman looks at each of their faces.
"You police?"
she says.
"I am,"
says Mirren. "Can we talk?" There's a short man behind the bar at the other end, pulling more pints for the domino players.
"Kieran, I'm taking 5.
Kieran nods upwards in silence, in acknowledgement.
"Come out the back,"
she says, and leads them to a brick-lined yard, with picnic tables piled up ready to be used in the summer.
"Your bloke, Ralph.
"What's he done?"
He's been found dead, I'm afraid."
She doesn't react visibly.
"How?"
she says.
"Was he a burglar?"
"Works in the hairdressers,"
she says.
He was found inside a house in Mayfair with a necklace in his pocket."
"Did he go out at night a lot?" "He was a clubber. Went with his mates from the salon." "Did you ever go with him?"
says Poppy.
"Not my scene. I work here until 11 anyway. Then get home and go to bed with a book. He used to make fun of me, an old lady at 23.
How long have you been together?"
5 years. "And you've never seen him with a big load of cash?"
says Poppy.
"Or has he bought you expensive presents?"
Estelle shakes her head.
"When did you last see him, miss?"
says Mirren.
"When I left for the evening shift yesterday, so 6, half 6.
"All right. Thank you, miss,"
he says.
"Can I take your number? We'll call you if we need anything."
Estelle dictates her phone number to him.
"Will you be okay?"
says Olivia. "Can you get the shift off today?"
"I'd rather work. I'll go and see my mum later. She lives 10 minutes away. It's my day off tomorrow anyway."
"If you remember anything, message me." She hands Estelle a business card, and the woman nods to her, before they walk back through the pub and out to the street. Mirren takes Poppy and Olivia back in his car, and as they cross over the water on Lambeth Bridge, Poppy says,
"So he was a burglar and she didn't know?"
"That's what it looks like."
"Where's all the money?"
"Have you checked to see if he's got a record, Inspector?" says Olivia.
"PC Solway was going to do that. Let me call her."
He punches buttons on the dashboard, and a ringing tone sounds in the speakers.
"Yes, Gav?"
"This Ralph Braymere, Kath? Did you check his record?"
"I did, Gav. No, nothing. Not even a speeding ticket, but forensics took his phone apart,"
says Solway.
"Something interesting. He has the numbers of 38 women in his contacts."
"That's not against the law, Kath," says Mirren. "Not yet, anyway."
"There's more, Gav. Each woman's name has her address next to it, and they're all on expensive rows, either Mayfair, Chelsea, or a couple in Westminster.
Well, OK, but I'm not going to tell his girlfriend.
I double-checked some of the names, Gav. Out of the 38 women, 36 have had burglaries in the last 5 years. All jewellery.
What are the 2 names who haven't been burgled? Says Olivia.
One is Valerie Tintagel, the wife in the house where he died.
Olivia and Mirren exchange a glance. And the other?
Florence Main, who lives around the corner. It's an old contact, though.
Mirren blows out his cheeks.
Keep digging, Kath. Let me know what you find,
he says. Then he ends the call.
I still have the same question,
says Poppy.
Where's the money? If he robbed all of those women, he should be rolling in it, shouldn't he? Robbers don't do it for fun, they do it for the money.
By the time they get back to Hill Street, the forensics team have gone back to the lab to test their samples. But the tent is still up in the hallway. Olivia asks Poppy to go and find the housekeeper Tara to see if she has any useful insights into the daily life in this house. Mirren interviews Stuart Tintagel, and Olivia sits in, but there's no new information that comes out of the discussion. Afterwards, Olivia and Stuart stay in the room to debrief.
All sounds clear-cut, says Stuart. A burglar maybe heard a noise when he was mid-burgle, hit his head on something, got a bleed in his brain, and he only made it to the hallway before his body gave up.
I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. She waits for him to acknowledge her words before she continues. The dead man, Ralph Braymere, had your wife's number on his phone.
What? No, that's wrong.
Stuart looks sulky now, as his mind tries to process the information and give it some rationale.
How do you think that happened?
He says. That's a question for you. Poppy pushes open the door at the end of a long white corridor that leads from the hallway to the kitchen. Tara Lamb is about 30, with green eyes and thick dark hair. She's wearing chef's whites.
Can we chat? I'm Poppy. My mum is the lawyer for Mr. and Mrs. Tintagel on this case about the dead guy. Do you want coffee?
She says, and pours out 2 mugs for them, and they sit on tall stools at the kitchen counter.
Do you know what happened?
Says Poppy.
She got found out. What do you mean? Mrs. Tintagel? Yes.
Tara is suddenly insistent.
Got found out doing what? She had dinner with him,
says Tara.
The dead man. Last night? No, twice last week. Once out in a restaurant. I saw them on my walk home. I live on the Edgware Road, which is 15 minutes and a world away from Mayfair. Then he was here in the house. During the day on Tuesday. They had lunch. You're sure it was the same guy?
Says Poppy.
Did you look at his face when he was lying on the floor? I saw him before he died. In the house? Yes, last night. Sneaking about, says Tara. What time did you see this bloke sneaking about? Midnight. And you were still at work? It happens sometimes. What was he doing?
Says Poppy.
Walking up the stairs. I was in the hallway, came out behind him. You didn't talk to him. He could have had a legitimate right to be here.
Poppy asks more questions, but Tara has no more insights about life in the house after that. As the teenager walks back to the hallway, Olivia is coming out of the meeting with Stuart, and Poppy relates what Tara had told her.
Have you spoken to Valerie yet?
Says Poppy. No, she's resting in the conservatory, Stuart says. Not to be disturbed.
I might try something, Mum.
What?
I'm not going to tell you because... Plausible deniability. You know nothing. Keep Stuart busy.
Poppy winks at her and walks off towards the conservatory. Valerie has dark hair cut to her shoulders and pale grey eyes. Poppy appears at the door that separates the house from the conservatory.
Oh, sorry, she says. I thought there was no one here. Who are you? Says Valerie. My mum's the lawyer for Mr. Tintagel. She's dealing with the police for him. Sorry to disturb you.
She starts to turn back through the door.
You're not disturbing me. Come and talk.
Poppy sits down on a wicker chair next to Valerie.
What do you do?
Says the woman.
I'm a law student. You want to be like your mother? Yeah, I would, says Poppy. What do you do? Spend Stuart's money?
She's utterly calm, and her eyes have a passing smile in them.
How are you feeling after all this today? I just want it all back to normal.
Poppy decides to pull out the stops.
Did you know him?
She locks her eyes onto Valerie's face. And the woman knows that Poppy already knows the answer to the question.
Can I tell you a secret?
She says. And Poppy nods very slightly.
I met him once or twice. He was charming. I liked the attention, not in a sexual way, just something fun. They think he may have been a jewel thief, says Poppy. Why'd you say that? He had lots of names on his phone, all who've been burgled and had their jewellery taken. All the women from around here. And every single one of them had been burgled?
Valerie looks incredulous.
All but 2 of them,
says Poppy.
You and some woman called Florence Main. I know her. She's my friend,
says Valerie. Stuart Tintagel appears in the doorway. What are you doing? He says to Poppy.
We were just chatting, Stuart. She's waiting for her mother, your lawyer.
Yeah, I know who she is, and I was clear that my wife is not to be disturbed.
Sorry to upset you,
says Poppy, and she hurries out.
What was all that about?
Says Valerie.
Stop being so protective. I can fend for myself.
Can you?
His eyes are blazing.
This dead chap, you knew him, did you?
She blinks too many times.
Did you?
2 meals, Stuart, that's all. He was a jewel thief, apparently. What's it called? Casing the joint, isn't it? Assessing the layout of the house, asking about my jewellery in some surreptitious way, so he could work out where it was kept. I feel bloody stupid, if you must know.
You didn't do anything with him?
I didn't. And never would.
She holds his gaze until he gets the message. She looks away, then says,
What I don't understand is how he cracked the safe.
He had the combination, apparently. The police told me. I don't know how he got that. No one knows it apart from you and me.
And Florence?
What?
Florence. Florence stored some of her items there 6 months ago.
Why?
They had the builders in, and their safe was being replaced. She needed to store something, and I offered our safe.
And you gave her the combination to our safe?
It was for one afternoon. She said she'd need it the next day, and I was away. I said Tara could let her in, but I wasn't going to give our housekeeper the safe combination. So I told Florence.
Stuart storms out to find Mirren. An hour later, Inspector Mirren has a van full of police as backup on Farm Street. He knocks on the door to the house where Florence Main lives, but there's no answer. They all wait in the afternoon light, and after half an hour, a woman walks along from the tube. She has brown eyes and long brown hair. Mirren steps out of the van.
Mrs. Main?
He says. She stops and looks at him.
I'm Inspector Mirren of the Met Police. We have reason to believe you were involved with a break-in locally that ended in a man's death.
She looks incredulous, but says nothing.
I'm going to arrest you on suspicion, madam. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Mirren nods to 2 of the police, who lead her to the van. 24 hours later, Olivia and Poppy are having pasta in a restaurant on the edge of Trafalgar Square, and Olivia's phone rings. She mostly listens to the caller, then swipes to end the call. That was Inspector Mirren. Florence Main has confessed to the killing of Ralph Braymere, but she's pleading manslaughter.
Did she give him the safe combination?
Says Poppy. Yes, she's also admitted to blackmailing Ralph to commit a series of burglaries in the area. He broke into her house 5 years ago, but she caught him on that night and said she'd go to the police unless he continued.
And she kept all the jewels,
says Poppy. She didn't have anywhere to sell the jewellery without getting caught, but she kept promising him that he'd get his slice of the takings. He eventually said he was going to stop after the Tintagels' house break-in unless she gave him his money, but she turned up unannounced at the house in the middle of the night to make sure she got the necklace. They fought, and she grabbed the nearest object she could find, which was a letter opener on a side table. She hit him and happened to find the weak spot on the human skull.
I still don't understand why he kept doing it for so long.
That's why blackmail works. Because people being blackmailed imagine that the fallout is going to be existential, but the actual damage in practice is always far less than people imagine. A waiter approaches them with their pasta, and outside the window, the tourists and locals take photos and talk and laugh in Trafalgar Square. The Street Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday.